Praises to the Creator, Yah. So we need to give Him all the praise, all the glories, and set Him apart and understand and understand who our enemies is. Christianity is the enemy of the Israelite. I'm going to prove this to you. This is the original doctrine, but then they had to use our books to indoctrinate us into serving JC. So I'm going to show you who JC truly is. Let's find out who he is right now. Know thy enemy, then you know how to move. Just like if you know your God, you will know how you need to act. If you know your enemy, then you know how you need to move. Okay, let's go. Based on the Nag Hammadi Library and the early Christian, these are what the true Christians believed in, y'all. The anti-heretical writings, such as those of Irenaeus, your description aligns closely with several Gnostic traditions, particularly the Sethian Gnostics, the Ophites, who revered the serpent. Let's find out what the true Christians believed in. This is what Christianity was built on. This right here. That's why they run around with snakes all the time. Let me show you this. Here is a breakdown of the specific point mentioned based on Gnostic teaching. The demiurge is the devil. So when they're talking about the devil in the New Testament, they're talking about Yahweh. They're talking about Yah. I told you this already. When you're talking about the mark on your hand, that's Yah told us to put the mark on the hand. He told you to put the mark on your forehead. That's what Yah told us to do. Go look in Ezekiel 9. The mark, that's the tav to put on our forehead. He told us to put the tav on our forehead. The angels would put a mark on your forehead. And then when you study the law, he said, put it on your hand. So you have it on your hand, you have it on your forehead. That's why y'all see me with his name on my forehead, because he told Aaron's children to put his name on their forehead. That's why I did that. Okay. If you really truly know your Tanakh the way you know it, you will understand who your enemies is. Okay, the demiurge is the devil, aka Yahweh, the God that I worship, the God that I serve, Yahuwah, who you serve, Yahweh, who you serve, Haya, who we serve. They think he's the devil, and I'm finna tell you who they think you are. Watch this. Negation of the Old Testament. Nazis believed the material world is a prison created not by the true supreme God, but by a subordinate, ignorant, and often malice creator called the demiurge, also known as Yahweh, Samael, and Psychos. Identification of Yahweh. Many Gnostic sects explicitly identified this demiurge with Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, viewing him as a jealous, delusional, and inferior being who demands blind worship. Devil versus the Creator. While the demiurge is not usually the Satan of the Orthodox theology, he fills the role of the ultimate adversary of the human soul. He is considered the devil in the sense of that he keeps humanity ignorant of their divine nature and trapped in the material world. Jesus is the son of Elyon, the unknown Father. That's why he keeps saying, if you see me, you see my Father. That's why he keeps saying that, because he keeps telling you, you see me, you see my Father. Nazis talk that beyond the ignorant demiurge, they're talking about our daddy, y'all. They're talking about Yah. And I'm finna tell you who they think you are. Watch this. Demiurge is this a supreme unknown God, often called the monad, the one. The one? Huh? Who's the one? Who's the one? Who? What did he say in Deuteronomy? He won? He won? Who they talking about? Do you hear? They call the Gnostics talk that beyond the ignorant demiurge exists the supreme unknown God, often called the monad, the one, the Father of, which aligns with the concept of El Elyon, the Most High God, in some ancient traditions. The one is Yah. Jesus is as an emissary. Jesus Christ was viewed as an emissary, Ayon, the son of the true high God, sent to earth to bring gnosis, knowledge, to humanity so they could escape the demiurge's prison, setting Adam and Eve free. The serpent Jesus as savior in the text, like the testimony of the truth in the Apocryphon of John. The serpent in the Garden of Eden is not the devil, but a positive figure, sometimes viewed as an incarnation or agent of Christ, Sophia, who brings wisdom. Enlightenments over disobedience. Listen to this. The enlightenment came for disobedience. Watch this. The forbidden fruit represents gnosis, knowledge. By eating it, Adam and Eve were not fallen into sin, but were being liberated from the ignorance imposed by the demiurge, Yahweh, who wanted to keep them as mindless servants. The fall as an escape. The fall from the garden is reinterpreted as a necessary escape from a gilded cage, the material world, into that difficult path of true knowledge. The creator of the Israelites, patron of the ignorance. We ignorant, y'all. We ignorant. The Gnostics thought that the demiurge Yahweh declares himself the only God and chose the Israelites as his people, which is interpreted as him creating a system of law, sacrifice, and a fear to maintain his authority. We ignorant, y'all. The patron of the ignorant. We ignorant. The Israelites are ignorant to them. Opposed to the seed of Seth, Gnostics often viewed themselves as the spiritual seed of Seth. Spiritual. They always talk about spiritual something. Spiritual. The third son of Adam and Eve, who they believed was not corrupt by the demiurge, positioning themselves against the followers of the Old Testament God. Summary of the Gnostic views. True God, El Elyon, Supreme Father, sent Jesus, the serpent, knowledge. False God, demiurge, Yahweh, created physical prison, earth, Adam and Eve. Go, liberate the divine spark within humanity from the demiurge. Now I'm finna show you. These people tell you they Christians, and let me watch, and I'm finna show you some videos what they say. Watch this.
Serpent in the garden was actually Jesus? Get this, an ancient book banned by the church reveals who the serpent actually is, who God is, who Jesus is, who the devil is, and what the Garden of Eden really meant, and most importantly, what you really are. And it's nothing like you've been told. Sometimes you have to turn things upside down to see them clearly, because this isn't about ancient people in the garden with fig leaves. This is about a cosmic cover-up, about the difference between blind obedience and awakening, about a false God who lied and a serpent who revealed the truth. Now, you know the classic Eden story, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the one rule about not eating from the tree of knowledge, a wise serpent, and a very unhappy God when he finds out that they break the rule. It's often called the fall of man, the original sin, blah, blah, blah. But have you ever really listened to the story? I mean, really paid attention to its details? Because buried in this ancient tale are some insane details that got under the skin of some early Christians so bad, they believed that it revealed a dark truth about God. My name is Morg. I'm an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge to make enlightenment go viral. And today we're exposing the truth about the connection between Jesus and the serpent. Okay, so first you know the story. God creates a perfect garden, sticks the first humans there, basically says, hey, have fun, kids, but don't touch that one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat its fruit, you're gonna die that very day. In fact, Genesis 2:17 says, but from the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it you will surely die. Okay, got it? Disobey equals death the same day. Then, and of these weird rules, the serpent tells Eve a very different story. In fact, the snake flat out contradicts God, saying, you will not surely die. The serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. All right, whoa. So the snake is basically saying, nah, you're not going to die. Instead, you'll wake up and your eyes will open and you'll become godlike in knowledge. So we have these two opposite claims here. God says, eat and die. Serpent says, eat and you'll gain wisdom, not die. Now, only one of these can be true, right? It's like the ultimate he said, she said, or rather, he said, snake said.
If the serpent in Genesis was never God's enemy, what if everything the church taught you about the fall was inverted? And what if Jesus himself pointed to the serpent as a symbol of salvation, and they've been hiding it from you for 2,000 years?
Garden of Eden. Genesis was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3 describes it as cunning, deceiving Eve into disobeying God. But the Bible reveals more. Revelation 12-9 calls Satan the ancient serpent, the true deceiver behind the fall. The serpent's lies brought sin, but Genesis 3:15 promised hope, a savior who
have a podcast where I talk about there's good information in this Bible.
Yeah.
You just have to have discernment on what is good and what is not so good, what to use and what to apply.
Like Deuteronomy.
Right. Don't apply Deuteronomy. You'll be in prison. You get castrated and everything, mess around with Deuteronomy.
Yeah, what's up with that? Why? That's crazy.
You know, it's because it was written by people. See, the Gnostics you brought up a minute ago, the Gnostics had a very good concept that I truly believe in after really studying the Gnostic texts. The Gnostics in the Nag Hammadi, they come to the conclusion that the biblical text is orchestrated by these Anunnaki gods and not the creator of the universe. And that the same Satan that they're running from is the same entity or energy that has curated this text, and that they're following the same darkness that they're running from. That's the Gnostic summary.
According to the old tradition, the creator of the world, the Demiurgos, was a blind demon who thought he had made human beings as unconscious as possible in order that they should not see the imperfection. But the God of the spiritual world was quite different. He never made material creations because that was beneath his dignity. Only demons could work with dirt, and he saw the mystery of those blind human beings and sent his son in the form of the serpent in paradise to tell them they ought to change. They ought to eat the forbidden fruit in order to become conscious and see the difference between good and bad, knowing good and evil, as the text says. So, the Son of God made his first appearance on earth in the form of the snake in paradise, giving good advice to the first parents. For certain Gnostics then, the serpent is equated with Christ, a positive messenger from God, bringing illumination to man.
And becoming like God, promoted by Lucifer.
Oops. Y'all get it, but I got two more.
Concept of freedom and becoming like God, promoted by Lucifer, is found in the secret teachings of Jesus contained in this gospel. See, in this gospel, Jesus teaches that heaven is not a place that one goes to after death, but rather a state of being that can be achieved in this life through self-knowledge and reaching a higher consciousness. And heaven can be found in the present moment, right now, in this world and all around us. In saying 3 of the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, if your leaders say to you, look, the kingdom of heaven is in the sky, then the birds will be there before you. If they say that the kingdom of heaven is in the sea, then the fish will be there before you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. Concept of freedom and become. Instead of wasting time scrolling through social media, Hallow lets you begin and end your day connecting with God, which is really all that matters, and it reminds you of that. Joins the millions of Americans who are discovering the peace, the only real peace and clarity that prayer can bring. Hallow. Download it today, HALLOW. It's free to try. It may be the most important decision you make this year. Get 3 months free at hallow.com/Tucker. And if it doesn't change your life, I'll be shocked. I mean that. Now, why would that be a good thing?
For a lot of these guys, like Nick Land, he calls himself a theosophist. Theosophy, again, it's a hard thing to untie, but in part because the religion itself was kind of a mishmash. It was a 19th century philosophy formally put in place by Madame Blavatsky, I think in 1875.
A Russian immigrant to London.
Yes, and she come from a long background of Freemasons and German, she came from a very occult. Her first cousin was the president of Russia, Sergei Vits. I'm again probably butchering a lot of names here, so
Madame Blavatsky was a very famous person in 19th century.
Yeah, she was essentially the mother of the New Age movement. So what she believed, it's Western esotericism mixed with Eastern religion. It's essentially proto-hippie, proto-California. counterculture stuff. A great book on this, one of my favorite books, is a book by Martin Green called Mountain of Truth about Ascana, Switzerland. It's about the birth of the modern counterculture. The California
He was about to say Ashkenazi.
counterculture, whether it was Trotsky and Lenin or Carl Jung, all these people hung out, Tucker, in the same place in Switzerland in like the 1920s. But so Theosophy's main insight, according to Land, was that, and he said it himself, the secret doctrine, the name of her book, was that, this is what Land believes about Blavatsky, the serpent is the redeemer, that Satan and Jesus are the same person, which also ties in with a Gnostic cult called the Orphites, I believe, from the 2nd century, who, again, they believe when Moses is holding up the snake on a stick, that's also Jesus on the cross. Pretty heretical stuff. So to answer your question, how do you get into Satanism? Again, another, record scratch, how did I get here moment to say that out loud. They believe that essentially it's the Gnostic idea that Adam and Eve were slaves in the garden, that they were stuck there, that the serpent, by when he approaches them, he essentially gives them the red pill speech from the Matrix. Look, you're a slave here. You're not doing anything. You're naming animals and tending to a garden. You're never going to break free from this over God that's here. I can give you a choice. Take this fruit, this red pill. I don't know if it's a pill, or you can stay here and be a slave. But just know, if you take this thing, if you take this pill, if you eat this fruit of knowledge, which, as you can see, I should emphasize this. The tree of knowledge very much ties directly into this whole concept of AI, which is we are kind of creating this tree of knowledge. But we'll get to that in a second. But the serpent says you can eat from the tree of knowledge, and there'll be a price to pay for that, but you're going to be free, and you'll be like a god.
Once you rebel against Dad.
Yeah, essentially, yes. You will be free. You need to transgress, you need to sin, but you're going to be like a god. Eve famously eats the fruit, brings death into the world, and they understand shame. They have this gnosis moment, Adam and Eve, where they realize, oh my goodness, we're naked. Who are we? They have this self-actualization moment. That is the Gnostic interpretation of the Garden of Eden, and that is very much. It's an ancient idea. No ideas are really too new. But to answer your question,
that's the oldest idea of all.
It's very old. But
bow down before me, and you'll be like God.
Yeah, but to get back to your original question, how do people get into these ideas of? The Theosophists would say in some cases, it seems like they actually believe in Satan, but even on a metaphorical level, they would say the mind, intelligence is Satan, that the human mind, it's breaking free. This is intelligence breaking out. So I'm going to make a crucial point here. When they talk about AI, and they talk about AI apocalypse, and they talk about intelligence breaking free and AGI, you're getting into this idea that even Land himself will say is theosophy, but it goes way back of the mind breaking out and rebelling against God, intelligence breaking free. That's what they believe happened in the garden with Gnosticism. Gnosticism means knowledgeism. It's knowledge. This is pure knowledge. That this is that breaking free, and that by creating these runaway AI things, that's what we're also doing. And the fact that it may kill humanity or transcend humanity, or humanity will need to evolve to go with it, that's cool. They see it, Tucker, as essentially being the same situation in the garden. Break free, do it. Yes, you'll bring death. Yes, you'll get us all killed, or some people killed. Whatever, just do it. Cults typically don't buy green bananas as far as thinking ahead.
Don't. And this is a religion for people who don't have children.
No.
Of course. Just do it.
Right.
So what I think you've successfully done is tied a bunch of different threads together and pointed them all the way back to the origin story.
Well, I hope I did that. I hope I just didn't do the "It's Always Sunny" meme of him having the all these index cards and it's a very hard thing to.
No, I think you laid out the thematic basis of Gnosticism, Kabbalah, whatever you're calling it, the occult. It's all a rebellion against God, and it's always predicated on the same transaction, which is bow down before me and I will give you power.
Well, it definitely can be that, and I want to emphasize, he was brought on by I think it's Theodor von Karman, this scientist over at I think it's Caltech, or eventually it was JPL, but he was really into the occult, and he summoned the devil allegedly when he was 13, really into esoteric stuff, part of this greater LA avant-garde scene. And he's I think he's been said he's the fourth most important person in the history of jet rocketry and stuff like that. But he was really into the idea of bringing in manifesting a supernatural being. So he would go with L. Ron Hubbard, the future founder of Scientology. And I know that Scientology they say that L. Ron Hubbard was doing intelligence work. He wasn't really into this stuff, but he would go with L. Ron Hubbard into the Pasadena Arroyo Seco, and they do rituals there, and they try to manifest, a kind of supernatural figure. So there's a classic example there, and science is littered with these, of people who are brilliant scientists, but who are into incredibly strange stuff. And, the guy...
I noticed that a lot of those scientists are working on technology that kills people.
Yeah, they also do that too. And the guy that brought him on...
Well, Parsons was doing that. Well, ultimately the technology was used to kill people.
Which one are you referring to?
Rocketry.
Oh yeah, rocketry was. And what's funny too is he either he or von Karman, they donated to my friend Rick Spence. He's like the Doc Brown to my Marty McFly. He's this historian I brought on for my show, trying to do it, and he's an expert on Parsons and this stuff. And he pointed out to me that Parsons and von Karman, that they were part of the Pasadena Cell 122 of the Communist Party, which is he said the exact same one that, I forget if it was Robert or Frank Oppenheimer in Pasadena, were also donating money to. So there's an incidental, funny historical connection there between Oppenheimer and Parsons and the Communist Party. But
as if we needed more evidence that nuclear weapons are demonic.
Well,
I know this upsets certain people on the so-called right, but it's evil, and if you can't see it as evil,
nuclear, yeah. It is funny though. Parsons, the guy that brought Parsons on, though, is this guy, Theodor von Karman, and von Karman's father told Karman, brilliant scientist, that he was descended from, I was going to butcher the names here, but I think it was Rabbi Low, the 16th century Prague rabbi who brought together the golem. Which I bring up because that's something you notice with AI too, is a lot of the main figures in AI, they all think of themselves as being descended from creating a golem. And the nature of digital life, and this is also very important to Nick Land's thinking, is very similar to Kabbalah, which is you're using in digital life ones and zeros, but you're using an algorithm, a set of instructions to bring an inanimate object to life, which is the creation of a golem. You use clay. It's man as God.
Tell us what a golem is.
Man, never thought. This would be the part.
Okay, remember, Yah said that people were creating idols. He said that they were creating idols, and then I showed you in the video that those idols, they were invoking spirits into these idols. Now, you got to know that this is Yah doing this, because I just made a video showing you this, and then here this man is talking about the exact thing that Yah just showed me. The exact thing Yah just showed me. Here this man saying they created it with their hands. Yah said they were making their idols with their hand. That's what it says in Isaiah. The Most High Yah says this all over the scriptures. They're making it with their hand. And then I showed you over in the Dead Sea Scrolls that they were invoking in these idols. They was calling on the demons that were left over, that were the children of the Nephilim. Now, he just said they make the clay items, and then they call these spirits up into these things. So you need to know what's going on, why Yah is telling you, don't do this, and they were bringing them into the temple and all this kind of stuff. So I'm showing you what's going on. Yah showed me, and then I show it to you. He showed me, I show it to you. You show me, I show it to you.
Chris asked me what a golem is, where the movie would do the record scratch freeze frame. You might be wondering how I got here. Tell us what a golem is, Con. A golem is essentially it's a creature, mythical, but with digital life. We've already kind of created them. The idea of man creating a creature that's an artificial life form. So back in the 16th century, the idea was you take clay and then you'd create the little parts of a little man, kind of create like a Frankenstein. Frankenstein's a golem.
Yeah.
Essentially. But you'd have the algorithm, or the ritual. And you'd animate the thing, using, symbols and numbers, and it would eventually come to life. And
be your slave.
Well, what's funny is be your slave, but the legend of the golem in Prague, and it's probably assuredly just a legend, is that it broke free and started killing people and doing all these things. So that's an important point to make, is when people talk.
Why do we assume that's a legend?
You would think that would have gone viral on TikTok on something in the 16th century, if they had that. I mean, what's funny though is that you look at stuff like the Terminator movies and these idea of AI apocalypse, which is very, very big right now. I mean, the Washington Journal, they had this last week. It's the phone and ChatGPT is bringing up